I read 10 books this month, some genuinely brilliant, some that tested my patience, but one that came out of nowhere to steal my heart away. Yes, if September were a book, the blurb would probably read a tale of betrayal, anger, but one dashing hero coming to steal my heart. So grab a cup of tea because this video is going to be a ride. This month I went heavy on thrillers, like 5 of them. Then there were like 3 which were like contemporary literary fiction. There was 1 historical fiction, and there was 1 fantasy that completely shattered me. In total, I would say I would read around 3,400 pages, give or take, and the average rating was 3.3 stars, which kind of says how this month was. So starting at the beginning, because the sequence of my reading made it even more chaotic. But keep watching till the end, because the book that completely shook me is probably one of the best reads of my year and was probably one of the last ones I read this month. So the first book, I kicked off September with The House with the Golden Door by L.D. Harper. So this is the second book of the Wolf Den trilogy. I read the first one. The first book, The Wolf Den, follows Amara, and she's sold into slavery, and it's how she navigates her life in the notorious brothel district. And by the end of the first book, she gets her freedom. The tone shifts quite away from the first book. It becomes more character driven, but not in a bad way. Like, I'm quietly watching the everyday life of these enslaved women unfold as they navigate their life now in a newfound freedom. And the world felt so vivid. So I actually listened to the audiobook of this one, and I thought it was great. It was done brilliantly. I listened to the audiobook for the first part as well. It kind of brings the whole cast alive, and like there's this character called Britannica, my absolute favorite in this book, and she's this sharp-tongued girl. She is very witty, but she's very fierce, and she also has this emotional core which really draws you in, and she was such a delight to hear too, like so well done. What really stood out in this book was also this fact that there was a power dynamics that kind of kept shifting and evolving throughout. There's this antagonist in this book who was also in the first part, and he was so frustrating to read. Like, he is so good at manipulation that I literally wanted to get into the book and intervene. My only gripe with this part is our main character, Amara. Like, she felt very powerful and fierce and strong-willed in the first part, but somehow I felt those aspects of her character a bit missing in this one, and I felt like a few of the decisions that she took were questionable, and I was like rolling my eyes, and I was like, oh, is she doing like that? But yeah, overall 4 stars. A slow burn, but definitely engaging. And at this point, I'm truly committed to see how this trilogy is going to play out. And I'm going to listen to the third part as well, even as an audiobook. And I give this book the award that I am too deep into this trilogy to quit now. Next up was The Gift by Frida McFadden. So this is a modern retelling of The Gift of the Magi, but please, I am serious. Don't mess with the classics. I was so mad. I read Gift of the Magi when I was in high school and remember absolutely loving it. Like, this is a story about this young couple who are trying to find Christmas gifts for each other, but they don't have a lot of money. It's about love, about sacrifice, and what truly matters during these festivals. Like, that was such a great book. Like, this book was almost laughable. Yeah, 2 stars. Yes, skip this one. The word for this book is, please don't mess with the classics. And the next book is The Wedding People by Alice Nisbach. Alright, so The Wedding People was like a mixed bag for me. I've already recorded my thoughts when I finished reading it. Okay, so I just finished reading The Wedding People, and people say you shouldn't go into a book having expectations. But when a book has won the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Fiction, how can I not have expectations from it? To be very honest, the only reason I picked this book up was because it won this award. And to be very honest, I am a bit disappointed. At its core, I didn't know what this book actually wanted to stand for. Like, it was a literary fiction, but then you had elements of it being a chick lit. So we have this character Phoebe who is suffering from depression. She's facing issues in her divorce, in her mental health, and she comes into this resort where she's stuck with the wedding people. So on this one end, we have these dialogues from Phoebe, which are like monologues and which root in a lot of introspection. You know, it's very hard hitting, it's very serious. And then we have this full on bridezilla, and it goes into a very, you know, chiclety ish with her. And you know, she wants to do all these girl drama, she wants to go do all these elements you expect from like a wedding chicklet movie. So yeah, it was very confusing to me, and I didn't know what the book actually wanted to stand for. And overall disappointment. It wasn't too bad a read, the writing wasn't really bad, but it's a lukewarm experience. So 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, and that pretty much sums it. It was 3 stars, and the award is the lukewarm book of the month. And now let's talk about the real surprise of the month. It is The Sword of Kaiken by ML Wong. This book is a fantasy that feels like a complete mess, but a beautiful mess. Like when I was reading this book, I thought I was reading like someone's first draft of it, and it was just so messy. It was just so random, so unpredictable. But this unpredictability, I think, is what makes this book so great. What really pulled me into this book is the world building. You dropped into this isolated mountain society, and these group of people who are very loyal, who are very proud, but they are so deeply steeped in tradition that any challenges to their beliefs feels like a blasphemy. And then the book slowly starts chipping away at this facade. Like these outsiders come who start challenging their beliefs. They learn about these long hidden truths that they had no idea of. And imagine like growing up with a strong set of beliefs, and slowly you learn that whatever you have learned, whatever your family has learned and worked for all these years was a big fat lie. Like, yeah, it was so good to see like how these group of people wrestled with like these faith and tradition, but still being courageous all the same all along. And let's not forget the character work, absolutely incredible. Like this, we have this character Masaki. She starts off as this quiet housewife, but slowly you realize that this woman is an unhinged woman. She will stop at nothing to protect her family. She's fierce, she's bold. She has such a rich history, and she is so strong. Like she is as strong as the strongest men of this tribe, and all the while people have been just underestimating her. And her bond with her son is the emotional backbone of the story. It's tender, it's heartfelt, and completely unforgettable. I have to say this, like even after, despite that, the pacing is very abrupt. Like timelines just keep jumping, and major events, they come out of nowhere. It's very chaotic, but I love that. Like this chaos had me hooked at the edge of my seat, because I don't know what's going to happen next. Like the author can just kill the main character off in the next second, like for all I know. By the end, I was just sitting there and I was like, oh, was that a mess or a masterpiece? And I was like, yeah, maybe both. 5 stars along, the most unexpected read of the year. And the book award that it receives is the Beautiful Mess That Wrecked Me award. Next up was The Strange Houses by Uketsu. Like this book has such a cool premise. Like it's a collection of floated plants which look almost innocent at first glance, but when you look into it deeper, you find something genuinely wrong about it. And that's what basically this book is. Part mystery, part horror, part puzzle. Like it brought out the wannabe detective in me. Like I was sitting and going through these floor plans trying to figure out what was wrong in it. Many of it I got it, but a lot of it I missed, obviously. But yeah, it brought out that detective in me, which I absolutely loved. The concept is very clever, and you keep getting this creepy vibe, which Uketsu does so well. He did it with strange pictures as well, and which keeps you kind of off your seat, and it's totally addictive. Like he does that with his writing. I finished this book in one sitting. Like I couldn't wait to find out what is happening in this book. But I have to say the ending got a bit too wild for me. Like while, okay, I understand everything, but it felt too far-fetched. I feel the second half of the book didn't have as many of these flow plans that were there in the first part. So the detective and me kind of, had to sit quietly there, and just, it became a very text-heavy read from something which was like very picture-ish. So yeah, that's why it's like a little bit of a mixed reaction. Like I absolutely loved Strange Pictures and the ending, but I can't say the same with Strange Houses. but overall still a very fun and clever and intuitive read. I've actually rated like 3.5 stars, but I have rounded up to 4. Well deserved. And tell me I'm not the only one who's looking at flow plans a little differently now. The award is Most Unhinged Book of the Month award. Next up is Butter by Asako Yuzuki. This is kind of, I saw this book everywhere, so yeah, I had to read it. And honestly, I would say it disappointed me because I felt like I went in to have a pizza and I got served a refined soup. Yeah, so I felt like this was supposed to be a thriller, a mystery, like that's how it's marketed, but to me, this read like a literary fiction. And to be fair, I really thought it was a strong literary fiction, like mainly because of the characters. Like you see them transform throughout the whole book, and which was very fascinating to read. I really felt the first half was very strong because this is a central woman and you couldn't quite figure out, is she a master manipulator or she's just a victim of the society. And there was a lot of commentary on beauty standards, about, a correct size a woman should be, and most importantly, there were a lot of food descriptions and food recipes with butter. Mouth-watering. So after a solid first half, I didn't feel like the book kept its momentum. Like the second half of it was a letdown for me. The book is like really long. It's like 450 plus pages. And despite that, a lot of plots and subplots still like kind of end up going nowhere. I felt like I invested a lot of time into these characters, into this book, into the story. And the ending was just a bit very lukewarm, very meh. Like it all kind of fizzled out by the end. So yeah, at parts, I thought this book was absolutely brilliant, a 5-star read, but the length and the ending kind of dragged it down. So overall, lukewarm read, 3 stars from me. But I have to say, I was hungry the whole time I was reading this book. The award is the Journal Catfish Award. The next book is Here One Moment by Liane Moriarty. Again, an audiobook from me. The plot of this book is really cool. Like there are people on a flight and there's this woman who just goes to everyone and she tells them the age and how everyone is going to die. And there are people who are just like laughing it off, but some of them, their death and their predictions, the age is very close. So they're going to face this future soon. So yeah, overall it sounds really juicy, right? But no. It was a disappointment. The plot just meanders and it keeps stretching and it was really boring. I can't fault the narrator, but I felt the book was such a slog. The award, the Snog Execution Award. Probably skip this one. Next up is a thriller, The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. This was my biggest disappointment of the month. I mean, come on, like, this felt like a dark romance done bad, not a thriller. Like you can't just deal with heavy topics like manipulation, abuse, cult, brainwashing, and just like, brush over it, like not go into the nitty-gritty of it, not into the details of it. So it just feels like this book didn't do justice to anything. Like it just felt like it went halfway in and then it just went nowhere. I was genuinely disappointed in this book. I just rated it of 1 star. Like a hodgepodge of stories, an unconvincing story. Like I don't buy that story at all. And overall, a very big disappointment. Yes, that's the award. The Disappointment of the Month award. The next one is The Maid's Secret by Neeta Prose. So it's the 3rd book in this Maid series, and by this point I'm genuinely bored. I listened to the audiobook again. I can't follow the audio, but I feel at this point they're just reusing the concept over and over again. There's nothing fresh. The mystery itself, it felt very repetitive. There's nothing being added to Molly's stories at this point now, and I didn't even know what was the point of this book. It wasn't terrible, but it was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to continue this series anymore. I feel how it had started with a very fresh, charming start with this character of Molly who was so unique and fun to read. I just feel at this point it's just same thing over and over and over again. The award, the series fatigue award. And the next up is the book, my favorite book of the month. Like you could see after reading so many disappointing and lukewarm reads from like stories and series where I was already expecting something good, I wanted something binge-worthy, something different, and this book delivered. Yes, I'm talking about Yellowface by Arf Kuang. Honestly, reading this felt like a dramatic, unfiltered insider view of the publishing industry, and I loved every moment of it. The plot of this book is about this character who steals a manuscript from her dead best friend, who was this really famous author. And yeah, it's basically about what length can this character go on to keep hiding the truth. Plagiarism, racism, cancel culture, Twitter pylons, trolling, short-lived fame. You name all the messy parts of the literary world that people don't actually talk about, this book has it. And then there's this main character. She is an absolutely worst of a human being. And I think that's what makes this book so enjoyable. Like, reading the perspective from a morally questionable character, and the action she's going to take is equal parts frustrating but rewarding and addictive. Like, it's like watching someone dig their own grave and you being slowly satisfied by it, because yeah, this character sucks. There's also this character, Athena, who's this dead best friend, and I felt R.F. Kuang was kind of holding up a mirror onto herself when she was talking about this character. So there's a lot of meta commentary, and I loved every second of it. And honestly, if this book taught me one thing, don't read your reviews. And if you're reading it, don't spiral. So no doubt, 5 stars, bold, bingeable, and one of the smartest reads of the year. The award, undoubtedly, Best Book of the Month award. Ta-da! And that's a wrap for September. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below on what was your favorite book of September. And if you liked any of these books and thinking of picking it up, let me know below. Till then, bye-bye. Good night. Shubh Ratri. See you next time.